Morning Nick's Farm. So today is going to be a very serious vlog because it's me talking about HIV and me. So for those that don't know, I am 40 years old, I am HIV positive and I have been for the last 20 years of my life. I found out about 2 weeks before I turned 21. So of course it's a vibe. It's not a vibe. So I'm going to do this video unedited, uncut, and just in the moment, because I feel like if I stop, I'm going to overthink it and I'm going to watch back and I'll probably end up messing things up. So I'm going to try and do it as best in order as I possibly can, but it might not end up that way. So swing back to when I was 20 years old. When I was 20 years old, I got an addiction which wasn't a good one. It was some brown stuff. Yeah, the hitch. It was not a good time for me. And I got clean from it and I'd completed the green juice program and I was fine. I'd come out the other side. So back when I was in rehabilitation, they used to check you every 3 months for HIV. So I'd had my check once I'd came off the juice. I'd had my 3 months later check. I was clean, I had nothing. Fast forward a couple of months and then what happened is I became homeless. So my daughter had been removed from my care. I'd become homeless. I didn't get clean until after she'd been removed from my care. So she was now living with my parents and I ended up in a situation where my rent wasn't getting paid. The house I was in wasn't DHSS accessible and somebody else was meant to be paying my rent. And when they got my daughter, they decided they were no longer going to pay my rent. And of course, as a landlord would, and back then they kind of got away with it a lot more, because I didn't have a penny to stand to my name, they boarded up my house. I became homeless. So as a result of this, I ended up staying with somebody whose sister lived a few doors down from me. He lived in Darlington. We lived in a town called Southbank, which is near Middlesbrough. It's now classed as Redcar in Cleveland. It was at the time too, but before that it used to be classed as Middlesbrough. So I can't remember this guy's name and I'm so grateful that he put a roof over my head. He'd not long got out of jail, so he was in one of these like halfway house things where it was only him that was allowed to stay in, but he was allowed guests during the day, but you had to leave through the night, but it wasn't staffed. So I would sneak in on a night, stay there and leave the next morning, ready for them coming in and all the rest of it. Then there was this place in town called First Stop. So one thing that you might not know is if you're on benefits, if you've got no fixed abode, they will not have you on benefits. You're not entitled to them. So there's this place in Darlington Town Centre called First Stop. So First Stop used to get called Gouch Stop. It used to be on Stonebridge in Darlington Town Centre, and basically what they did is they gave you little letterboxes. So you would go in and you can use theirs as a care of, and that way you were still able to get your benefits. So after I'd got clean, after I'd got sorted, I was going in there getting my mail. And one day I goes in and there's these two guys that come in. Now I'm sat there at a loss, not really got much to do. Sometimes I just used to go there just to sit as somewhere to have, whilst this guy went off to do what he was doing, who was letting me stay at his place, all the rest of it. Sometimes I would just stay with him and then leave and then come back so the staff didn't realise I'd been there all night, etc, etc. So then what happened is I ended up seeing these two guys. So these guys rock up on like a mobility scooter. You've got one on the back, one on the front with his leg in a cast. All the way from his toes, all the way up to his hip. It was a full leg cast. They were clearly drunk and they comes in and they starts talking to me and chatting away. And back then I didn't have a care in the world. I was 20 years old. I was homeless. I had not much to do and they invited me back to their, very similar to how I live, in like a house share. And they were like, do you want to come and have a drink with us? And I was like, do you know what? Yeah. So they'd asked a little bit about me. I'd asked a little bit about them. I got both of their names. And basically they'd asked about me and I was like, yeah, I've just got clean. I'm da 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 da. The guy who'd hurt his leg was adamant that I had AIDS. So I don't got AIDS. And he was like, nah, you probably don't, and laughed it off and joked it off. But every time he was drunk, this is what he would say. So what happened is I ended up leaving with these two, going to this bed sit. It was the smallest room in the house. And the guy whose room it was stayed in his bed. The guy who had the bad leg and myself would stay on the floor. It was a crazy situation. We ended up being friends with other people in the house. Some of my friends started coming round who weren't into anything. and it became like a big party house. Like, in all honesty with you, the landlord wasn't happy about it, but he was a little bit nicer than the one I'd had previously and wanted to follow the rules to get everyone out. There's an old boy in there who just liked to sit and drink all day. He used to go do the paper run for his niece. Like, it was just in a very nice environment where I didn't feel as in danger as I had in the halfway place. It's not a halfway place, like, it's in Station Road in Darlington. It's kind of where people went when they got kicked out of jail before they got put in a housing. Whilst they were on probation, in case they ended up back in jail. They weren't given houses back then. I don't know the rules about it, I've never been to jail. So anyways, me and this guy started seeing each other, the one that had the dodgy leg, and every time he got drunk, he was like, you've got AIDS, and I was like, no, I really don't have AIDS, like, I've been tested for HIV, I don't have that, like, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine, I've been off the drugs for ages. And then I started, like, drinking with them, and I was doing some drugs with them, but I wasn't doing what I'd done before, so there was, like, a little bit of ego around and stuff like that. So the maddest part about this is I remember, and I can tell you the exact night I caught it, and this is mental that this is the case. So I've got allergies. I've got hay fever, I've got allergies to dust, perfume, like, I've got a lot of allergies. So at the time as well, chicken pox was going around. So whilst we're in this relationship, it was awful, but it was all I had. It was all I had. So what had happened is we'd get drunk, we'd get arguing, we'd get drunk, we'd get arguing. Then we ended up introducing other things, which was like the E and stuff like that. And there was one night that we did what we did because of what we'd taken. I ended up with cuts, and it wasn't a pleasant environment. It wasn't pleasant at all. It was very sore. And then I got very ill. Like, I got very ill. I got cold symptoms, flu symptoms, hay fever symptoms. I got this rash all over my body. And in Darlington at the time, there was Dr. Piper House that was a walk-in centre. So I went to the walk-in centre and they were like, right, you've got a hay fever, but it's a winter form. So bearing in mind, this is October that I have gone to this appointment. I'm also fighting for my kid, but I've got nowhere to live, so that's not going very well. And they're like, look, this is the situation. Like, we think that this is what you've got. And I'm like, okay, my allergies are basically getting worse. So that's what they diagnosed me with. Then this guy's like, no, you've got this, you've got AIDS, you've got AIDS, you've got AIDS. And I'm like, I don't have AIDS. Like, I just don't have it. So in the finish, my friend, one of my daughter's godparents, was with me. And I was like, the next morning, I was like, just take me to the hospital. Take me to the GUM. I'm going to go get tested. I'm going to prove him wrong because he's doing my head in. Like, at this point, it's becoming a joke. So she takes me to the hospital and I get my bloods done. I got a full screen of absolutely anything and everything at this point. It's like, I'm here, I might as well. A couple of weeks later, it might have not even been weeks. It was like within a time period, I get a phone call and they're like, can you please come in and see us? We've got some results to go through with you. We need to give you some medication. At this point, I'm like, oh, medication? What do I need medication for? So when I've gone in, they told me that I had BV, which I could take medication for. They told me I had, I hate saying this word out loud, chlamydia. They told me that I had tested positive for a couple of other things. And then they came back and told me I'd tested, apparently, I don't know how far this is true or if the wording of it, or if they just did it so that it was better understanding for me. But like, when we take your blood and we've sent it off to the place where they test the blood, it's tested in different parts, and they're like, one part of your body's come back positive, blood's come back positive for HIV, but the rest of it's come back negative. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And they were like, we need to retest you. And I'm like, okie dokie, does it mean there's a chance I could come back negative? And they said no. I said, how long have I had it? And they were like, we can't tell you how long you've had it, but based on when you were poorly and based on the fact that you're not fully infected means you've definitely contracted it within the last 3 months. That's the best they could give me. And off that, I started freaking out, like, oh my God, my last test results were wrong. Like, this is more of my days, what's happening? So I had to go back and tell this guy. I go back and tell him, and that night he gets drunk and he wants to do stuff, and I'm like, no, and he's like, yes, and I'm like, well, if we're going to, we need to use protection. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. And no matter what I said, he did it anyway. I had no choice. So that was that. I'd done the retest whilst I was at the hospital. They'd offered me to see a psychologist and I was a counsellor, and I was like, I'm not interested. I'd put myself in a bubble. I had all these things going on. I was fighting for my child. I'd just become homeless. I had a not good relationship with any of my family. Like I was drinking too much. There was all these things and they weren't penetrating. They were kind of there. So I was in a bubble. They were at the bubble. So I was aware they were there, but they weren't penetrating. So they weren't affecting me. I'm quite good at disassociation, which is what I believe I 100% did in this moment. Then I get a phone call a couple of days later, can you please come in so we can discuss the results? And I'm like, just tell me. And they were like, we'd rather tell you in person. Goes in the hospital, sure is. You know it, Rachel, you've got HIV. What does this mean? This means that in about 15 years' time, because we believe you've been recently infected with everything that happened with my previous appointment, thinking it was like a winter form of hay fever, it wasn't. It was my body becoming infected. So because of all of these things and the previous tests, they knew the window. And at this point, I'm freaking out and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go back and tell this guy. Like, he's been saying it all along and he was right. He must have been able to see it. Like, not that you can see it. It's not something you can look at someone and say, oh yeah, you've got that. And I'm like, what the hell do I do? So at this point, I go straight to my mum's house, you know, the person who's meant to love and support me and everything. A couple of hours later, I get a phone call off the social workers, like, can you pop your mum on the phone? And I'm like, yeah, okay, because she didn't answer her phone. And it was on loudspeaker, and they turned around and said, well, we've had confirmation from the hospital, Rachel's not lying. So I got the phone call off the social worker. My mum got the phone call to say, yes, she's telling the truth. Like, and I do get why my mum thought I was lying about it, because she didn't want to believe that her daughter had been diagnosed. I know that I said I wasn't going to put a break in it, guys, but it's one of those things that they're like, it wasn't a good time in my life, but I kind of feel like I dismissed it too much at the time. So when I think about it now, it kind of like, it doesn't make me feel great. I feel numb to it still. Like, I feel like I'm still disassociated from it. So it's 2 weeks before my 21st birthday, and I am sitting there getting told that I've got a 15-year sentence. So I basically got told that I would never get to the AIDS. Pneumonia would probably have the effect first. So yeah, and that was kind of that. So I went back, like I said, I was at my mum's house and she phones the guy I'd been seeing. It was like, you need to come and see Rachel. She's had her results back and she's too scared to come and speak to you and see you. So he come on his little BMX and he turned up. So it wasn't a million miles away from where he was staying to where they lived. And when he come in and he was all lovey-dovey and nice, and he was like, it's fine, we'll get through this, it's fine. And I was like, well, why would you want to be with me if you haven't got it? There's still a chance that you don't have it and all the rest of it. And I genuinely believed that when I was saying those words. At no point in my brain, bearing in mind I knew it was clean, and then I knew that I hadn't taken any drugs, so I knew that I didn't get anything from there, and I knew the only person I'd been with was this guy. But my brain was not correlating that, oh, maybe it's the last, that this guy could have given me it. It was literally, no, the previous results must have been wrong. So something you might not know if you've never been tested for anything, if you come up positive for something, they then ask for a list of your most recent partners. So at the hospital, I'd given his information and that was it, because he was the only person I'd been with. The guy who had been staying with before then, we didn't actually have that type of relationship, and a lot of people think that we will have done, but we genuinely did not. So that became one of the things that, like, okay, I've got to tell him myself, because the hospital's going to tell him and he's going to know it's me because he knew there was a chance. So I've got to be honest. And it was hard to have that conversation. Bearing in mind, I was 20 and I'm pretty sure this guy was like 37 at the time. Like, he was a lot older than me. He was like fully, like, he was almost old enough to be one of my parents. Like, he was older than me. And he'd had his pot off and everything like that. And then he took me back to his house. At this point, he'd moved into one of his, he'd taken over this room. This other guy that was in there had gone, and we all ended up having a party. I cut my thumb on a can, and then I screamed for everyone to get away from me and all the rest of it. And then that's when everyone else figured out that I'd had the results. And they were actually really supportive, like one of the nicest families. And I still occasionally speak to some of them when I see them, like in passing, or if there's something celebratory online and I see it, I will absolutely give them compliments on that, because they were very nice people, and yeah, they were. And then of course, my daughter's godmother, she was very supportive at the time, like, and I think she kind of knew too. So what that led to is that night, he wanted to again, and I was like, no, this time is different. We now know I've definitely got it. If you're gonna, we need you. Again, I had no choice, it happened. He was blind drunk. Like, when I tell you this guy was drunk, he was drunk. And when he was doing what he was doing and I was sobbing, he literally comes down to me and was like, no sorries, I've already had a letter saying that I need to go tested. And I'm thinking, wait, I only was at the appointment today, how have you had the letter already? He'd got it from someone else when he lived, because he was from London, living in Darlington because some of his family was up here. He'd already had a letter telling him he needed to go get tested. By me telling him all my information about what drugs I'd been on and how I'd got on it, and obviously it can be transmitted by sharing equipment, he'd used me as the guinea pig and then said to me, when she told me I didn't think I'd have it, by you coming back positive, this is why he pushed me into, you've got it, you've got it, you've got it, you've got it. And he told me, and he said, I knew there was a chance I could have it. You come back positive confirms I've got it. But because of the way he'd done it and I got the diagnosis first, and I couldn't prove that he'd been the only person I'd been with, there was nothing I could do. And I wouldn't have done it anyway, because I just disassociate from it all. So we ended up sitting together for another couple of weeks, and then one night he goes out to walk one of the lasses home who was quite a lot younger than us. I want to say she was 14, 15, and then they come back and his shirt's all done up wrong, and lo and behold, yep, she was another one of his victims or survivors. I do see her out and about now and again. I'm not going to say who she is. And yeah, she got it as well, but she was a kid. She was even younger than I was, and I was young at 20. And I want to say he was 37. He might not have been that much older than me, but I just feel like he was. I knew he was a lot older than me. And yeah, so they ended up being a couple. I ended up in a situation like, what do I do now? And then luckily, the town used to do this thing called a bond scheme. I managed to get myself a bond together, and I ended up moving into a flat. And I sorted myself out and kind of went onto a better trajectory, but I wasn't in a good place. I was still doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, just hiding it a lot better. And that's the story about how I got it. So why am I talking about this? I am a 40-year-old heterosexual white female who didn't contract it from substances. So it's about raising awareness. I know there is other people out there that are exactly the same as me in the same situations that have got it through innocence of their own innocence. And do you want to know something, guys? I want to raise awareness. So lo and behold, if I got told I was going to be gone after 15 years, how am I still here 20 years later? I got into a relationship a few years later, and something happened with the protection. I ended up falling pregnant, and there's these wonder drugs. So these medications that my daughter took, whilst I was pregnant, I had to take them religiously. It was 2 tablets, 1 in the morning, 1 in the night. In fact, it wasn't. It was 3 tablets in the morning, 3 tablets in the night, and they were huge. And I had to take them exactly 12 hours apart, otherwise they would have stopped working. Then the first month of her life, she took medication. She didn't get it. And then this medication that I was on during pregnancy was only meant to be through pregnancy, and then afterwards it had been authorised that actually people can stay on it. So I've now 3 medications different now. I'm now on a completely different medication. I take 1 tablet a day, and it's nowhere near as big, and that's that. And that's why I'm still alive. So I'm no longer infectious. I'm no longer detectable. If you take my blood, you cannot find the virus within the blood because it's been suppressed down that far that I'm no longer infectious. So my virus is undetectable right now. I think if I had to come off the medication, that would change, but the medication is what keeps me alive and keeps me here today. And I'm so grateful. There is many times in my life that I probably shouldn't be here now, and I'm so grateful that I am, which is why I'm wanting to get the operation to get smaller, because I want to be healthier physically as well. I want to live, man. I do not want to not be here. I want to be here. I've got a granddaughter. I've got my daughters. Did I start thinking about them too late in life? Probably, yeah. But the fact of the matter is, they are my world, and I will do anything and everything for all 3 of those humans. And better late than never. It is the only way that I can think of this. Like, it really is. Fun fact, about 12 years ago, I decided to leave Darlington. No, about 10 years ago, I decided to leave Darlington to move into a different town. 10-12 years ago, I can't remember exactly when. Yeah, I was living there in 2016, so it must have been, and we're now in 2026, so it's about 12 years ago. I decided to move in with a mutual friend. We both, he was living with somebody I used to work with. I wasn't living with anybody, and I'd started working. I'd started getting a job, started doing really well for myself. And bills, I just didn't want all my money was going to my bills. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I was both moving in somewhere. We split the bills. We both had our own money, managed to get things done. And that's what happened. Now, when we decided to move from Darlington up to Catterick Garrison, I paid somebody, a man with a van, to turn up. And who was the man with a van's friend? Lo and behold, the guy that gave me that years ago. And I didn't even see him, and I heard it. hello princess. Don't ever call me princess, I can't stand it. In his accent from London, and I just heard his proper Cockney accent. Nothing against Cockney accents, but his voice. Excuse me, I've got lots against. And he looked at me, and I just looked at him and was like, what? Now the other guy's like, don't give him a hard time, his girlfriend's just left him, she's took his dog, she's left him with nothing, his life's falling apart, this is happening, that's happening. When I tell you I cackled the most evilest laugh that had a high pitch, I'm telling you now, I'd never heard this come from me before. I didn't even know this noise existed within me. And then this guy's like, whoa, like, give him a break. And I went, you don't know how he knows me, do you? And then the guy just looked at me. And then the guy who'd infected me was kind of like, yeah, let's not get into it. And I was like, this guy ruined my life by giving me. And then I just blurted it all out. And this other guy's like, whoa, he's like, is he still okay to help me? I was like, let him help you. Let this man move my furniture. And I'm not paying him, I'm paying you as the deal was. If you want to pay him, by all means pay him. But yeah, like, and this is why I'm a firm believer in karma, because karma didn't have to bring him to my front door when his life fell apart. And then the girl, I saw her succeeding, she was doing really, really well. I believe she still is, you know, and I love that for her. And yeah, so I don't know if any of this is making sense. I don't know if anyone's watching this because they care or if they just want to know anything about it. A lot of people assume that I got it from the rugs, from sharing equipment. I didn't. I just got it from a general day-to-day having unprotected. It's going to be a handy video to show people as well. Like, if you've got someone in your house that you're family that you're a bit concerned of, tell them a story. Tell them. Like, tell them I have to take medication every day. There's other medications I can't take when I need to because they will interact with the medications I take day to day. I wasn't going to share this. I wasn't actually going to share anything about my health, like this health, until my youngest left school. However, one, she's already aware about it. Two, she already talks about it. And three, when I spoke to both of my daughters and both of my sisters whose opinions I care about, none of them were bothered and they all understand why I wanted to raise awareness. I get stopped in the streets where people have got body positivity because of what I do on TikTok. I've got people that have been in my lives that didn't make bad choices as a result of the things I've talked about. There is a television programme that came out called Euphoria, which is very triggering for substances, that I had to stop watching because the way my brain started going, because it glorifies. And I had other people not bother watching it because they didn't want to do that. I had people in my comment section that were telling me that they were going to, and because of watching my live, they're now not going to, but they're no longer going to finish that series because of how triggering it is. So if me talking about the HIV is going to stop one person from getting infected or make one more person feel less alone from having it, because there is still a stigma. I very rarely get a bad reaction when someone finds out, but on the rare occasion that I do, it's normally that they feel like they had a right to know. I was in a woman's refuge because me and this guy ended up, before I ended up moving elsewhere, me and this guy actually, oh no, I didn't end up in the bond scheme. I ended up in Hartlepool after this guy, after being in a refuge. Me and him ended up fighting. I headbutted him. I ended up black and blue. I ended up in a refuge in Darlington. I got back with him. Then he did something to me that wasn't very nice. I ended up in a refuge out in Redcar. And from Redcar, I ended up getting rehoused up in Hartlepool. So, of course, I ended up back on the substances in any case because that's what I do. I disassociate and then I make stupid decisions and I relapse. I have now been off the green juice since my most recent relapse because that was my second relapse. I've relapsed 4 or 5 times over the years. But my most recent one was in 2019 and I haven't relapsed since. I came off the green juice on the 9th of April 2022 because they wouldn't let us reduce during COVID, and I've got no intentions of doing anything. I no longer drink on the just on the off chance that I might make a stupid decision. I don't smoke. I've quit smoking for 4 years. I've quit 4.5 years now. I've quit vaping for 3.5 years. I don't do anything, and people might say I'm boring. I'm not boring. I'm alive. I'm going to be going to get the operation. Whether I get the operation in the UK or whether I get the operation in Turkey, I will be making myself smaller. Then I'm going to do some tidy up. I want these little things gone off my eyes. I want my arms to be reduced. Like, there's things that I want to get done. I want to be happy with my insecurities. I know that I am beautiful and I do absolutely have body positivity, but I still have things that I don't like about myself that I've got the ability to change. So guys, I don't know if you've got any questions. If you have got questions, by all means ask them. Ask them in the comments and I'll do a video following up with the questions. If you are in a position where you've had any unprotected with anybody, please go get tested. Just do it. Getting tested saved my life. And it will save yours too. there's not much else to go on. I'm going to come back and do more story times about other things too, but this is the one thing that I wanted to do, which was the HIV and me. So thank you so much for watching. If you're not already subscribed to me, please drop a subscribe. If you are already subscribed to me, don't forget to hit that little bell. Don't miss it when I put out a new video. And be kind. Please be kind. Have a great day, guys. Thank you. Bye. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I'm Rachel Nixon 1985. See you all soon.